What's up, everybody? What's going on? I hope you're having a good weekend. It's Championship Sunday. And I'm doing this video, I'm shooting it for the NFC Championship. So, just wanted to tell everybody that. This video is a countdown video, a new edition of the countdown, a top 10. The top 10 failed jumping ship moves in wrestling history, in my opinion. What do I mean by jumping ship? Well, I mean guys that left WWF for WCW, guys that went to WWF from WCW, and their jumps to different companies did not work out. These are the top 10 biggest fails of guys jumping ship, in my opinion. Number 10 would be Bret Hart going to WCW in 1997. The end of 97, Bret Hart made his wrestling debut at WCW Sold Out 98 against Ric Flair. They had a very good match. I enjoyed it. But Bret Hart didn't do that much in 98. 98 was probably... 98 was probably his best run in WCW because he was U.S. champion. He had a feud with Sting. That was okay. He had a feud with DDP. And that's basically all he did. And then he's just hanging around the NWO and basically in the shadow of Hollywood Hogan. And in my opinion, Bret Hart was in the shadow of the NWO and Hulk Hogan. If you were a WCW fan, in the late 90s, I was. But I was a bigger WWF fan. I have always seen myself as a WWF guy. They're number one to me, still. So, and my loyalty still is with WWE, even to this day in 2017. So, if you did watch WCW 97, 98, 99, you barely knew, you basically forgot that Bret Hart was even in WCW because they booked him so badly. His run in WCW was a big-time fail. I'm glad for Bret that he made $3 million a year. Good for him. Or whatever he made, $2 million a year. Good for him. But his run, his decision to jump ship from WWF to WCW was a giant fail. And that's all I'm going to say. Number 9, Bret Hart going from WWF to WCW is number 10. Now, number 9 is Lex Luger. The idiot. The guy that was just a body in the wrestling business. The guy sucked at promos. He sucked in the ring. All he had going for him was that he had a great body. That's it. And I'm positive the guy was on roids for a lot of his career. So number 9 is Lex Luger in 1993. Going from, well, he left WCW in 92. But he made his debut in the WWF in January 93. I believe at the Royal Rumble 93 as a narcissist. Lex Luger going from WCW to WWF in 93. As I explained, he was in WCW in 92. He took a long time off. He was part of Vince's bodybuilding organization, which was a giant fail. The WBF was 2 thumbs down. It sucked. Anyways, so then Lex got in, I believe, a motorcycle accident or something. He really injured himself, got his whole arm ripped off, or ripped apart, and had to get a metal plate in his arm. He actually has a metal plate in his forearm. So that was part of the narcissist gimmick. And that was pretty good, that they made his metal plate in his arm part of his gimmick, because he knocked guys out with a running forearm. So number 9 is Lex Luger going to WWF in 93. It was a giant fail of a jump, because he got a title shot. He was supposed to be the next Hulk Hogan. He was supposed to replace Hogan. He was supposed to be Vince's guy. As everybody says now, Roman is the guy, the next guy, whatever. Well, Lex was supposed to be Vince's guy. He failed. They tried to push him down everybody's throats. They even created the Lex Express, where he would go on a tour bus from every single state in America, trying to get the fans behind him to get a WWF title shot. He got one at SummerSlam 93. It was a giant fail because he didn't win the title. And then he got another title shot at WrestleMania 10 because he was one half of the Royal Rumble 94 winner, and then Lex failed again to win the title at WrestleMania 10 in 94. Number 8, biggest failed jump. Number 8 would be Dusty Rhodes going from the NWA at the end of 88. He was out of the NWA. Dusty Rhodes going from the NWA to the WWF in 1989. Yes, I will admit Dusty got the polka dots over. He got him over by himself because Vince put him in those polka dots pretty much to make him look like a fool. And I guess he did it. I'm pretty sure Vince did it as a rib to, I guess, upset Dusty because he was a competitor for so many years. I don't know why Vince did it. He's an idiot. He probably did it because it made himself laugh. But Dusty got the polka dots over. He was put with a black woman out of the crowd, which became his manager. She was Sapphire. Even she got herself over with Dusty. Well, Dusty got her over also. So Dusty jumping at WWF in 99, in my opinion, it was a fail, even though he got himself over. And his major feuds were probably against Macho Man, and then he had a feud against $1 Million Man. Number 7 would be Scott Steiner jumping after WCW closed in 2001. Scott Steiner jumping to the WWF. I apologize if it's very dark on my face. I'm not going to turn a light on. Anyways, I have the TV light. So, number 7, as I said, would be Scott Steiner. He was in WCW in 2001, and they closed down. And he was off for months and months, and then he debuted well over a year later, at Survivor Series 2002. Scott Steiner debuted, and the WWF got a huge pop, huge reaction at Madison Square Garden. Why did he get such a huge reaction? I still don't know why. I don't get it, why he was so cheered, but he was. If I was in Madison Square Garden at Survivor Series 2002, I probably would have cheered him also, because I was way younger back then. And I would have probably just cheered him out of being excited. So Scott Steiner jumping to WWF in 2002 was a fail. Big time fail. Because the guy did nothing. The guy was always injured. First off, the guy got buried by Triple H. He wrestled Triple H on 2 straight pay-per-views in 2003 Royal Rumble and No Way Out, and Triple H buried him. Triple H beat him 2 pay-per-views in a row. I didn't get that, but it happened. I'm not saying I wanted to see Scott Steiner World Heavyweight Champion. I did not, but Triple H didn't have to bury him. And then Scott Steiner, the guy wasn't even on the WrestleMania 19 show. I don't know what, maybe he's injured, I don't know. He had an injured ankle for most of his run. He also had an injured bad shoulder, so he couldn't do much, could barely do anything in the ring. It said punch, kick, and hit a clothesline and pick somebody up over his head. That's all he could do. Couldn't do a Frankensteiner anymore. He never even tried to do one. He had a feud with Test. That was decent. But he did nothing else really, and he was gone out of the WWF by the summer of 2003, I believe. He was gone, and he might have appeared in 2004 Royal Rumble, but I can't remember if he did. I don't think he did. So Scott Steiner's run coming back to WWF in 2002, that was a huge fail. It sucked. Number 6 would be biggest fail jump. Number 6 would be Bam Bam Bigelow going to WCW in 98. I understand why Bam Bam Bigelow went to WCW in 98 at the end of 98, because the guy was going to, I'm sure he got a guaranteed contract of 2 or 3 years. I'm sure he got paid a lot of money. And it was exciting. I'm not going to say his run was a giant fail, because I enjoyed seeing Bam Bam. I mean, he kind of feuded with Goldberg for a little bit. And then after that, they did nothing with him. They booked him awful. They just put him in hardcore matches against Raven and Sandman. And Sandman couldn't even be called Sandman. They had to call him Hack. That was stupid. I don't think ECW trademarked the Sandman name. Maybe they did. But Bam Bam's WCW run, I'm not going to say it was not memorable. So that's why it was a fail. Number 5 would be the Sandman from ECW, the hardcore icon, the beer-drinking, cigarette-smoking, Singapore cane-swinging Sandman. I used to be a big fan of the guy. Not as a wrestler. I was a big fan of his entrance and how they presented the Sandman in ECW. That's what I was a fan of. And he just looked like he was an everyday blue-collar worker that just could beat up anybody. So number 5 would be the Sandman jumping to WCW in 1999, becoming hardcore Hack. And they treat him like a hack in WCW. They treat him like not a H-A-K. They treat him like H-A-C-K, like a real hack. They did nothing with him. They didn't even create the hardcore title before he left. They created it after he left, I believe, at the end of 99 or 2000, they created the hardcore title. Which WCW just copied, in my opinion, off what WWF was doing, because WWF created a hardcore title at the end of 98. And Vince McMahon gave an old WWF championship that was all broken up, gave it to Mick Foley as Mankind. So then WCW thought, we should have a hardcore title. Let's create a hardcore title in 2000, because that's a good idea. It was not a good idea. It was stupid. I mean, their best hardcore champion was probably Norman Smiley, because that guy, Norman Smiley, he was pretty damn entertaining. So, Sandman going to WCW 99 was a giant fail. They did nothing with him, except put him in a couple hardcore matches on pay-per-views. They did nothing with him really on Nitros, except have him in a few hardcore matches. And they had hardcore Hack. Everybody knew he was a Sandman. And they had him come in as a friend of Raven. In segments, he was at Raven's house. It was weird. It was stupid and it was weird. Number 4, failed jumps, would be Shane Douglas leaving ECW. Shane Douglas leaving in 1995, leaving ECW to go to the WWF. And I guess he had a full-time contract, or he was offered a full-time contract to go back to WWF. He was there for a very short time in 91. And in 91, he was better in WWF than he was in 95, because they brought him in, and this is not Shane Douglas's fault. I'm not picking on Shane Douglas, because they gave him the worst, shittiest, stupidest gimmick maybe of all time. One of the dumbest gimmicks of all time that I've ever seen. And I've been a fan. I've been a wrestling fan for 30 years. I've been watching WWF, WWE for 30 years. And Shane Douglas got one of the worst gimmicks ever. I guess Vince came up with it. Maybe somebody else did. I don't know. But it was awful. It was Dean Douglas. Go back, watch Survivor Series 95. Dean Douglas is in a match on the pay-per-view, and look at his gear. It was awful. His gear was the color of my hat. It was baby blue, aqua blue. His gear was awful. And maybe you could say this color of my hat is awful, but I disagree. I like this color. For a hat, I like this color. For like an entire pants and shirt, I don't think I'd wear this color. But this was the color of Dean Douglas's wrestling gear. It was god-awful. On the back of his gear, on the middle of his back, it had a question mark. Or apostrophe. Something like that. It was stupid as hell. So Shane Douglas jumping in 95 to WWF was a giant fail. They were supposed to push the guy. They never pushed him. And I guess Shane Douglas blamed the Clique for him being held down. He blamed the Clique for holding him down. No, Shane, you can't blame the Clique. Your gimmick was just so awful that the fans would never get behind you. And you could have never been booked in a main event of a pay-per-view as a serious heel because of your gimmick was so awful. Number 3 on the top 10 failed jumping ship moves. Number 3 would be Wildcat Chris Harris from NWA TNA. Chris Harris, the guy was a great tag team wrestler when he was in TNA in 2002, 2003, 2004. The guy was damn good. And the guy was in really good shape. And the guy looked like a star, in my opinion. And I was a big fan of Wildcat Chris Harris, especially when he was in America's Most Wanted. I thought the guy was a good wrestler, good worker, and a great talent. But Chris Harris decided to jump to the WWE from TNA, decided to jump to WWE and be part of WWE's failed ECW brand. Their third brand, ECW, WWE's ECW, is on Sci-Fi on Tuesday nights, and it sucked. So they bring him in. Chris Harris debuts as Braden Walker. The guy looked like he was pregnant. I don't know what happened to him. I don't want to make fun of the guy, but he gained probably 70 pounds or more. Might have gained 100 pounds. The guy was really out of shape. The guy looked like he didn't want to be there. He looked miserable. And I don't know, WWE decided to bring you in, Chris Harris. Why did you show up on TV? Why did you show up in your debut really out of shape? I don't know why. But that is sad to see. Not only sad to see, but that is an embarrassment, Chris Harris. You embarrassed all your fans. And all your fans were probably ashamed that they were ever a fan of you when they saw you show up in WWE so damn out of shape. And maybe you were pregnant. Maybe you had twins. I don't know. So Chris Harris jumping to WWE in, I think, 2006 or 7 was a giant failed move by you. Number 2. Oh, this one is bad. This one is really bad. Ahmed Johnson jumping to WCW in the year 2000. First off, Ahmed Johnson disappeared. After Royal Rumble 98, or maybe No Way Out 98, In Your House No Way Out 98, he might have been on that pay-per-view, I can't remember. But I know he's at Royal Rumble 98, and he already looked pretty out of shape. The guy got injured a lot in WWF. He got injured a lot. He had a lot of serious injuries. So I don't blame Ahmed in 98 for gaining a little bit of weight because he was probably still rehabbing his injuries. But in 2000, my God, in WCW, Ahmed Johnson debuted as part of Harlem Heat, the new Harlem Heat, with Stevie Ray as his partner, because they decided Stevie Ray and Booker T were feuding. And Stevie Ray brought in Big T. Yes, Ahmed Johnson's WCW name was Big T And yes, he was big. He was super overweight. The guy had to be like 350 or more. And when Ahmed was in his prime, in my opinion, 95, 96, 97, the guy wasn't that out of shape. But my goodness, Big T, Ahmed Johnson, jumping at WCW in 2000 was one of the biggest failed jumping ship moves, in my opinion. That's why it's number 2. Ahmed Johnson going to WCW 2000, becoming Big T. The guy was really out of shape. He looked pregnant. He couldn't even hit his finisher anymore, his Pearl River plunge. When he'd hook the arms and he tried to pick up Booker T, hit the Pearl River plunge, and he really botched it, and he fell down. He just dropped Booker T, and then he falls backwards into the ropes. It was embarrassing. And I used to be a big Ahmed Johnson fan. The guy is one of my favorite wrestlers in 95, 96. I was a big Ahmed Johnson fan. Even in 97, I still liked the guy. So Ahmed Johnson going to WCW is my number 2 as Big T. It was bad. It was worse than Chris Harris going to WWE. That's why Ahmed jumping to WCW is number 2. Number 1. Number 1's bad. Because he only appeared on one show ever in the WWF. And I didn't see him appear anywhere else. He might have appeared at a few house shows, but I don't know. Number 1 is Buff Bagwell, jumping after WCW closed in 2001. Well, they took over Buff's contract, and maybe he took a pay cut to join the WWF. During the invasion, the beginning of the invasion storyline, Buff Bagwell went to WWF in 2001. And he was also in WCW in the beginning of 2001. And Buff main evented a Raw, I think it was in May 2001, main evented a Raw with Booker T. Booker T was defending his WCW championship. I felt so bad for Booker T because I'm sure he tried really hard to bring out a good match in Buff, and it didn't work. It didn't work. Their chemistry was bad. The match was god-awful. One of the worst main events in Raw history. It was bad. I don't blame Booker T at all. Booker T's awesome. I blame Buff. He didn't have his head in the game. Maybe he couldn't stand the pressure of being in the big leagues. I don't know what his problem was. Buff had a bad attitude. He thought he was a shit. He thought he was Buff the stuff. He thought he was the stuff. No, Buff, you weren't the stuff. You weren't the shit. You were a guy that was in WCW your entire career, and you were coddled to think that you were a big star. In your brain, you thought you were a big star. You weren't. You were not a big star in pro wrestling. You weren't even that good in WCW. All you have is a body. You had a great body, and you had some charisma. But you were in WCW, you were in a tiny little pond with a lot of big fish around you, and you never became WCW champion. So in my opinion, your WCW run was a failed run. And then going to WWF, as I said, I think you had a bad attitude. You thought you were the shit. You thought you were the stuff. Well, Buff, guess what? You were neither. You were neither. You were coming into WWF, where guys like The Rock was a part of the company. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, The Undertaker, Kane, the Hardys, the Dudleys. They had a ton of talent that was better than you. Booker T was better than you. Everybody on the WWF roster at the time in 2001 was better than you, Buff. Even Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn had a very short run in WWF, made his debut, and he won the light heavyweight championship in his debut. So I wouldn't call Jerry Lynn former ECW champion. I wouldn't call his WWF run a fail because in his first debut match, he actually won the light heavyweight title. At Backlash 2001 on the Sunday Night Heat kickoff show for Backlash 2001, Jerry Lynn won the title. So, Buff, you had a bad attitude. You were never the stuff. And your run in WWF was an embarrassment. You embarrassed yourself. You looked like a jerk off. You acted like a jerk off. Backstage probably. And look what happened after the match. I think they did this on purpose because the company was so pissed at Buff. They had Kurt Angle, Stone Cold Steve Austin beat the shit out of him backstage and throw him out of the arena. And throw him out of the doors of the arena like saying, get the fuck out of our company. That's what I took from seeing that. So there it is. My top 10 failed jumping ship moves in wrestling history, in my opinion. Hope you enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter at WWE NXT Guy. Also, follow me at NXT WWE Guy on Twitter. Also, subscribe, like, share, comment on my videos. This was the top 10 failed jumping ship moves in wrestling history. Bye for now, everybody. Have a great Sunday night and Monday.